Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that might sound, well, a bit corporate at first glance, financial DEI. But stick with us because you'll see how this goes way beyond just buzzwords. We're really getting to the heart of everyone's financial well-being.
That's right. And, we hear a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, but this deep dive, it takes us beyond that. We're going to be exploring how these concepts actually impact our own, personal finances. It's about revealing those connections, sometimes hidden, between financial health and social justice.
Okay, so to be sure we're on the same page here, we're not just talking about companies trying to, check boxes, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about real-world financial impacts that hit individuals.
Absolutely. And what I find so fascinating is how deeply, truly intertwined DEI is with all of our financial well-being. I think we often think of DEI as this separate initiative, right?
Yeah.
But in this deep dive, we're going to show how it's woven into the very fabric of our financial lives. It influences everything from credit scores to, building generational wealth.
This is already really interesting. So before we get too far into the details, can we just step back and clarify what DEI actually means in this context? Because we hear the term everywhere, but what does it look like in action, especially when we're talking about finances?
So think of it this way. True DEI in finance, it goes beyond just representation. It's about actually creating systems and opportunities that allow everyone to truly thrive financially, regardless of their background. And that means we're talking about tackling things like unconscious bias in lending practices, addressing that gender pay gap, and just making sure everyone has equal access to financial education and those resources.
So it's really about leveling the playing field, right?
Mm-hmm.
Making sure everyone has a fair shot at achieving financial stability and success.
Precisely. And it really does require a real commitment to dismantling those systemic barriers that have, unfortunately, historically disadvantaged certain groups, particularly those from marginalized communities.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I'm curious, when we talk about these systemic barriers, what are some concrete examples that have led to the financial disparities we still see today?
Let's rewind the clock a little bit. Let's look back at some historical practices like redlining. This was that discriminatory practice where banks would literally draw red lines on mats, and they would deny mortgages and other financial services to people who are living in predominantly Black and minority neighborhoods.
Wow, I knew about redlining in history books, but I never fully connected it to the financial disparities that we still see today. It's kind of mind-blowing how policies from decades ago can still have such a huge impact.
Absolutely. And the ramifications are they're enormous, right? Because homeownership for so long has been a key driver of building wealth. So denying that opportunity to entire communities has created this massive wealth gap. And unfortunately, it continues to affect generations.
It's not just about race either, right? Gender plays a significant role in these financial disparities as well.
Absolutely. We can't forget about that. Let's not forget that women were actually legally barred from opening credit cards in their own names until, believe it or not, the 1974 Fair Credit Opportunity Act. And that kind of systemic bias, it's had such a profound impact on women's ability to build credit, access loans, and just, truly achieve financial independence.
It's amazing to think about how recent that was and how much it still affects women's financial lives. So we've got this historical context. What about the present? What does the financial landscape actually look like now, in terms of these disparities?
Well, unfortunately, the statistics, they paint a pretty stark picture. The racial wealth gap in America is still a very real and an alarming issue. Federal Reserve data shows that white families have, on average, 8 times the wealth of Black families and 5 times the wealth of Hispanic families.
8 times. That's such a staggering difference. I can't even imagine what that actually means for people's day-to-day lives.
Well, imagine trying to save for a down payment on a home or invest in your education or even just start a business when you are starting from so far behind. It creates this cycle of financial instability that makes it so incredibly difficult to break free from those systemic disadvantages.
It's like this uphill battle, right?
Yeah.
Where some people are starting at the summit and others are starting way down in the valley.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's where the concept of financial literacy becomes so crucial. Understanding how money actually works, how to manage debt, how to invest wisely, those are such essential skills for everyone, but they become even more critical when you're facing all of these, systemic barriers.
So you're saying that financial knowledge can be a powerful tool for empowerment, especially for people who have been historically marginalized.
Absolutely. Financial literacy, it can be a game changer. It's about equipping people with the knowledge and skills they need to really navigate the complex world of finances, make informed decisions, and build a secure future for themselves.
But here's the thing. Financial literacy, it's not evenly distributed. There are these huge gaps in access to financial education and resources, which in turn, that just further perpetuates all these inequalities.
You're hitting on such a crucial point. You're absolutely right. Sadly, only 15 states actually require personal finance education in high school, which leaves entire generations ill-equipped to handle their finances responsibly.
That's alarming. It's like sending someone into a maze without a map or any sense of direction. How can we expect people to make sound financial decisions if they haven't even been given the basic tools and knowledge?
Exactly. And the consequences of this, widespread financial illiteracy, they can be devastating. There's a concept called the Wolfson cycle of financial illiteracy, which illustrates how this lack of knowledge can actually lead to this downward spiral of, poor financial choices, mounting debt, and just, chronic stress.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Paint me a picture of this cycle. How does it actually play out in people's lives?
So imagine someone who doesn't really understand how credit scores work. They might end up making late payments or maxing out those credit cards or maybe even falling prey to predatory lending practices. And they don't realize the long-term impacts on their financial health.
So it's not just like not knowing how to budget, but it's about being vulnerable to exploitation and making choices that ultimately keep you trapped in a cycle of debt.
Exactly. And then those poor financial decisions, they just lead to even more stress, more anxiety, and just feelings of hopelessness. It can feel like you're just drowning in debt, with no way out.
That sounds incredibly stressful and isolating. It's like this vicious cycle that's just so hard to break free from.
You're right. And what we often overlook is the emotional and psychological toll that financial instability takes. It's not just about the numbers on a page. It's about that constant worry and that, fear of losing your home, the strain that it puts on your relationships. It can be incredibly damaging to your overall well-being.
Yeah, it's like this invisible weight that people are carrying, impacting their mental health, their physical health, their relationships, their ability to thrive.
Exactly. And it's especially important to consider how this financial stress intersects with other forms of marginalization. For example, women, they often face unique financial challenges, and these are compounded by the gender pay gap, lower retirement savings, maybe due to career breaks for caregiving and just higher rates of poverty overall.
Like facing, multiple hurdles all at once. It makes it even harder to achieve that financial stability and security.
That's right. And there's a term for this, feminomics, and it really highlights how women's financial realities, they differ so significantly from men's, and how those differences really contribute to this persistent gender wealth gap that we see.
So it's acknowledging that women face systemic disadvantages, built into the economic system.
Yeah.
And that these disadvantages have real consequences for their financial well-being throughout their entire lives.
Precisely. And it's not just about the raw numbers. It's about the cultural messages and those societal expectations that often discourage women from truly taking control of their finances, negotiating for higher salaries, and really prioritizing their own financial needs. It's like there's this unspoken expectation almost, for women to be more passive when it comes to money. And that can really hold them back from achieving their full financial potential.
It's funny you say that because I've definitely felt that pressure myself. Like I shouldn't be too assertive or too ambitious when it comes to, talking about money or asking for money. It is like there's this underlying message that, women should just be content with what they have. And that can be really limiting.
And it is a message that we really need to actively challenge. We need to empower women to take ownership of their finances, to advocate for themselves, and to break free from those limiting beliefs, those old messages that we've internalized.
I like that. Take ownership. That feels really empowering. So if we're talking about, concrete actions, where do we even begin to tackle these systemic issues and create a more financially inclusive world? Like, what are the first steps?
Well, I think it really starts with awareness. The more we understand these deeply rooted biases and these historical injustices, the better equipped we are to challenge them and really advocate for change.
Okay, so awareness is key. But what about actual solutions? What can individuals do to make a difference in their own lives and their communities?
One really powerful step is to just examine our own financial trauma triggers and any unhealthy money beliefs that we might be carrying around with us.
Yeah.
We all carry baggage from our past experiences and the messages that we've absorbed from society, and those can unconsciously influence our financial decisions in a really big way.
So it's like doing a personal financial inventory, right?
Yeah.
You're recognizing those patterns and then actively working to break free from them.
Exactly. It's about becoming more conscious of how those beliefs and experiences might be holding us back, and then choosing to create healthier habits and make choices that align with our values and our goals.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like anything else. You have to identify the problem before you can even start working on a solution. But what about beyond our individual actions? What kind of systemic changes are needed to really move the needle on financial DEI?
Well, one really crucial area is addressing those social determinants of health. These are factors like access to affordable housing, quality health care, and a good education. All those things play a huge role in a person's ability to achieve financial stability.
It's about recognizing that financial health isn't just an individual responsibility, but it's deeply intertwined with these larger social issues, right?
Exactly. By advocating for policies that actually improve these social conditions, we're creating a stronger foundation for everyone to really thrive financially.
It's about creating a more equitable society overall, where everyone has the opportunity to succeed regardless of their background or their circumstances.
Right. And another critical piece of the puzzle is financial literacy education. We need to make sure that everyone is equipped with the knowledge and skills to manage their money effectively, to understand their financial rights and avoid those predatory practices that are out there.
I couldn't agree more. It's like that saying, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Financial literacy, that's the fishing rod.
Yeah.
It empowers people to take control of their financial destinies.
That's a great analogy. And we can all play a role in promoting financial literacy, whether it's supporting organizations that offer financial education programs or maybe volunteering our time to teach them financial literacy workshops, or even just, having these open and honest conversations about money with our friends and family, breaking down those barriers.
I love that. Breaking the taboo around talking about money. It's amazing how many people feel uncomfortable or even ashamed to discuss their finances, which can just perpetuate those feelings of isolation and shame.
It's true. We need to normalize these conversations, create a safe space to share our experiences, and just learn from each other.
It's about building a culture of financial empowerment and support, where we can all lift each other up and learn from our collective wisdom.
Exactly. And along those lines, it's also really important to support organizations that are actively fighting for financial justice, whether they're advocating for fair lending practices, promoting financial inclusion for underserved communities, or even working to, finally close that gender pay gap.
So it's about putting our money where our mouth is, literally.
Yeah.
And supporting those who are, working on the front lines to create a more just and equitable financial system.
Exactly. Every dollar we donate, every petition we sign, every conversation we have, it can all contribute to that positive change we want to see.
It all comes back to that idea of collective action, that we're all in this together and that we have the power to create a better world for ourselves and for future generations.
And remember, financial health is not just about the numbers in your bank account. It's about having the resources and the freedom to live a life that feels truly meaningful and fulfilling.
That's a really important point. We often get so caught up in the pursuit of wealth as the ultimate goal, but true financial well-being is about so much more than that.
It's about having that financial security to pursue your passions, to support your family, to give back to your community, and to weather those inevitable storms of life without being, completely derailed.
It's about aligning your financial goals with your values and creating a life that feels both prosperous and purposeful.
Exactly. And as we've learned today, achieving true financial well-being often requires dismantling those deeply ingrained systems and beliefs, both within ourselves and in society as a whole. It's a journey that requires both individual effort and collective action.
And by working together, we can create a more financially inclusive world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. What's really resonating with me after all of this is that idea that financial well-being, it's about so much more than just money, right? It's about freedom, security, and just that power to make choices that align with with
Yeah.
our values.
Yeah, exactly. It's about feeling empowered, not burdened by our finances. It's about having the resources to live a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm wondering, what does financial success really mean to you? Is it just about pure wealth, or is it about something deeper, more personal?
That's such a great question, and honestly, I think it's one we all need to be grappling with. What does financial success look like in our own lives? It might mean different things to different people, but I think ultimately it's about having a sense of peace and security in our relationship with money.
I love that. Peace and security. It's not about chasing some arbitrary number. It's about feeling grounded and confident in our financial decisions.
Exactly. And that confidence, it comes from knowledge, from understanding how money works and from having the tools and resources to navigate all those complexities of the financial world.
So it's about empowering ourselves with financial literacy, but also, recognizing those systemic barriers that might be standing in our way, right?
Absolutely. It's about both individual action and collective change. We need to be proactive in managing our own finances, but we also need to advocate for policies and systems that create a more equitable, a more level playing field for absolutely everyone.
It's like a two-pronged approach, working on ourselves and simultaneously working to change the world around us.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, it's an ongoing journey. There will be setbacks and challenges along the way, but with the right knowledge, having the right support and that commitment to creating a more just world, we can all move towards a brighter financial future.
This has been, wow, such an insightful conversation. I feel like I've gained a whole new perspective on financial DEI and how it impacts us all.
Me too. And I really hope that our listeners, that they feel empowered to take action, whether it's examining their own, financial beliefs or advocating for change or even just supporting organizations that are out there fighting for financial justice.
So as we close out this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge. What small step can you take, today to improve your own financial literacy, to advocate for more equitable financial systems, or maybe to just support those who are struggling financially right now?
Remember, every action, no matter how small it might seem, can contribute to a more financially inclusive world. It could be as simple as reading a book about personal finance, or maybe volunteering at a financial literacy organization, or even just, having a conversation with a friend or family member about money.
It's about recognizing that we all have a role to play in creating a more just and equitable world, and that even those smallest actions, they can have a ripple effect.
And as we navigate this journey, let's approach it with compassion, with empathy, and with a commitment to creating a world where everyone truly has the opportunity to achieve real financial well-being.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of financial DEI. We hope you leave feeling informed, feeling inspired, and empowered to make a difference.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving for a more financially just world for absolutely everyone.